Hello everyone, my name is Roke here, and today, of course, is the long-awaited launch of Mists of Pandaria Classic. This is the next addition to the Classic timeline and is giving us an opportunity to once again go back to Pandaria and live it as it once was. Because MOP Remix apparently wasn't enough for some of us, myself included. I figured this video might be a nice all-encompassing guide to MOP Classic while you wait for it to go live later today, and I'll even share with you how I plan to make the most of my launch night towards the end of the video. So without further ado, sit back, grab a snack, and let's dive into everything you might not know yet about Mists of Pandaria Classic. To get the obvious stuff out of the way, if you're watching this video when it goes live, then MOP Classic is set to launch in about 6 hours. But for everyone else that's going to launch at 6 p.m. EST, check your local time zone. I'll have those up on the screen here for you. As always with an expansion launch of any variety, expect some world stutters as players all try to clutter into Pandaria, but just try to make the best of those as you're taking your first steps into the new continent. MOP brought with it a ton of core changes to the game, and though most of those are in the game already since the launch of the pre-patch, I'm going to briefly go over them here in case you haven't noticed them yet. First off, gone are the days of looting every body after your personal massacre, as you can now simply loot a corpse and it will loot everything in a 30-yard radius, streamlining the process to be much simpler. Also, if you open your talent menu, you've probably noticed that your talents are now a much simpler option node every 15 levels, allowing players to have a much easier time on their leveling journey selecting what comes next, and also granting characters new abilities as they level rather than having to visit a class trainer. This change was met with a lot of criticism back in the day, and although those same critics seem to hold true to this change even in MOP Classic, it's a nice removal of what would have been a barrier to entry for interested newcomers. Finally, MOP introduced perhaps one of the most popular systems in the game's history, and that has to be pet battles. These have been live since the pre-patch, but by completing a very short questline in your major city, you can unlock the ability to do pet battles anywhere, and you can even gain significant amounts of experience doing these as well if you wanted to level up this way. Collecting and battling these pets, or even selling them for a profit, has proven over WoW's years to be one of their biggest hits, and I wouldn't expect that to be any different in this classic re-release of the game. Now we're going to be talking about new content that was strictly added for MOP, and we have quite a few things actually. The forefront of these is definitely the introduction of the new Pandaren race and monk class. These additions are an instant hit, providing players with a brand new class to play and a race that most considered a meme up until the release. Then they realized they're actually kind of cool. Pandaren are the core focus of the entire Mists of Pandaria expansion, and you'll get to relive their entire history and future when you dive into Pandaria later today. Some exciting endgame additions include the newly branded scenarios. These are 5-player experiences that you can queue into, and are usually bite-sized into lore-driven segments that run you about 15 to 30 minutes depending on which one you queue for. Players can get a taste of this experience now in the pre-patch by queuing for Theramore's Fall in the Looking for Group window, and these are a great source of early max-level gearing, and generally just a good time to do with friends on the side. Dungeons are getting quite a bit of love in MOP Classic, but to highlight one of its original additions is the introduction of challenge modes. Challenge mode dungeons only lasted a couple expansions, but were some of the coolest content to do if you wanted to strut your stuff in the PvE scene. Challenge mode dungeons were probably the earliest form of Mythic Plus, in the sense that you had to complete the dungeon as fast as you could to get a ranking at the end, and if you achieved gold in the dungeon, you would get a reward. Achieve gold in all challenge mode dungeons, and some of the best appearances that have ever been made in the game's history await you as the final reward. Of course, MOP, like every other expansion, comes with a plethora of new dungeons and raids, and those will all steadily release over the course of Classic as well. Players can expect to venture first into Mogushan Vault when it releases on July 31st, with Heart of Fear and Terrace of Endless Springs set to release shortly after as a part of the launch season. MOP is famously known for its Throne of Thunder and Siege of Orgrimmar raids, so it will be interesting to see how players react to those later down the line as well. Mists of Pandaria is probably one of the remaining times in WoW's history that Blizzard seemed to be passionate about PvP, as there was quite a few additions to PvP for MOP's launch. The addition of a new battleground in the form of Temple of Kot Mogu and a new arena provided players with something fresh to experience in the PvP scene, and with Classic, Blizzard are even going a step further to make more changes. This includes things like a revamped dampening system in arenas, a revolving conquest cap, bringing back Glad and Rank 1 rewards for 2s and 5s, and resilience scaling changes. There's even a built-in limit for PvE item level in PvP now, so that those pesky raiders can't walk in and stomp on your turf. Blizzard seems to be taking a strong stand with PvPers in MOP Classic, and the players have definitely been receptive to it overall. Speaking of ways that Classic is changing it up, we have a couple changes that are bound to make MOP Classic feel that just a little bit different as we're going through it a second time. Probably the biggest update by far has to be the introduction of Celestial Dungeons. These are a new form of what Classic has been calling the Protocol Dungeons, but taken a step further as they look to cement their usefulness in the expansion. Celestial Dungeons are a sort of Heroic Plus, or you could even call it a Mythic Zero experience, where players can embark on the same dungeons they're used to, but with harder fights that include raid mechanics, for a chance at high-level rewards that you wouldn't usually be able to get in a dungeon. Since Classic has decided that there will be no looking for raid, Celestial Dungeons are how players are going to get this gear, as the last boss of each Celestial Dungeon will reward players with a chance to roll for a piece of LFR gear, as well as a tier token after the season's been out for several weeks. Along with this, each boss kill inside a Celestial Dungeon will reward players with a new currency called August Stone Fragments. These can be taken to a vendor in any major city and be redeemed for more pieces of LFR raid gear, and even tier tokens at that entry level. Overall, it's a great way for players to get that high level gear even if they don't feel the itch to raid themselves. For our dedicated raiders though, Blizzard has made some big changes to your progression, namely in the form of pre-pull changes. Prior to the Legion expansion, most things did not reset on pull, and raids would spend several minutes after each wipe waiting for cooldowns. As of the MOP Classic launch though, most major class cooldowns now reset on pull, and certain resources like Focus, Runic Power, and Energy are now set at pre-placed values on pull as well, so no more waiting for cooldowns before that next big pull. I think that's it for all the big changes and updates coming in MOP Classic. As for my plan for launch later tonight, I'm opting for the slow and steady rate for once, and I'll be questing my merry way to level 90. This is definitely the slowest way to level unless you're maybe gathering your way to 90, but Pandaria is such a rich and beautiful continent, and I want to relive that all bit by bit on its release tonight. If you're someone that has a need for speed though, there are plenty of great videos circulating on how to be one of the fastest to level 90, and I would highly recommend checking out some of those videos if it's something you're interested in. I think that's it for me though. Let me know in the comments below if you'll be diving into MOP Classic tonight, and if you are, what is it that you're most excited about? I'll be back later in the week to jump back to retail for a nice breakdown on all things Season 3, and then we have got to talk about that midnight key art for Gamescom. Until then though, thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe and bell icon, and until next time, I'll catch you all later. See ya!